Hey, yo.
I'm so excited to be with you guys today. We are going into a whole new area that Winston and I are very excited about.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is definitely something I know that Janelle and I have been talking about for a while. And for any of you guys that have been following us from the beginning, one of the reasons we started our show and, felt that there would be value that we could add to the platform or the world in terms of just things that we talk about was the idea that we discuss things that weren't just under the umbrella of business. We talked a lot about life. I mean, a lot of our relationship is built on the conversations that Janelle and I have had the pleasure of having. And so we thought if we could add or bring others into that conversation, that we could, expand as a whole. One of our big, I can think, philosophies in life is kind of helping each other grow and develop. And so with what we're doing now with the Monday Rundowns, guys, we're going to be able to get into a lot more and discuss a lot more. And today's topic is definitely one of those topics where it's a far cry from entrepreneurship and business, network marketing, any of those things. So I'm definitely excited about jumping into today's topic and our new platform or new format with the rundown, the Monday Rundowns.
So all right. Just to be clear, like when we thought of like what we wanted to do, the rundown, like this idea of like, it's kind of like life's rundown. So like all things that matter in life, that is what you can expect moving forward on our Monday Rundowns.
Nice. Thank you. All right. So we're going to jump right into today. And today, guys, we are doing a little bit different because the way the rundowns are going to run, right, is we're actually going to have an opportunity to review a bit of information, a video, I mean, maybe even articles at some point, but a video that we have found that we've gotten some value from, and with you guys discuss it. We may do some of the rundowns live on our Wednesday podcast, and that way you guys have an actual opportunity to engage with us. But these Monday ones are going to be pre-recorded, so please don't forget to leave your comments, right, guys? Add your insights, add the things that maybe stuck out to you. If you're going to share the video with somebody, tag them in the video. All of the same things you do for our Wednesday show, please do with our Monday format, and we can get that content out to more people so we can add, just more value out there in the marketplace. So let's jump into today's topic. Today is definitely going to be a hot one, like we like to talk about. So today's topic, guys, is going to be, boom, good sex explained in 9 minutes. Now,
I'm ready.
I know. So this one is definitely not going to be coming from Janelle and I as a whole. We're actually have an amazing video that this is actually going to be the first time she and I both get to watch it together. And so we're going to watch it live with you or record it with you guys so that you guys can also hear what this young lady has to say. And just so I get this correct, I think they share her name right out the gate in the beginning of the video.
Dr. Emily Nagosaki at the very
Nagosaki. Thank you, Jay. All right, so guys, let's jump into this one. And for any content that we share, don't worry, we are always going to make sure that we link the source of the video that we're using so you guys can watch and review for yourself. All right, let's jump into this one.
Virtually everything we're taught about sexuality for the first 2 decades of our lives is wrong. A lot of us were raised in what I started calling the desire imperative, that you have an obligation to experience spontaneous, sparky desire for your partner and to sustain spontaneous, sparky desire for your partner all the time. And so there's a lot of advice about how to keep this alive. And what I want to say is screw the spark. So how most of us think about desire is as a spontaneous desire where you're just like walking down the street, you have a stray sexy thought, you see a stray sexy person, kaboom, you just want the sex. And that absolutely is one of the normal healthy ways to experience sexual desire, spontaneous desire. It emerges in anticipation of pleasure. But there's also...
All right, so I'm going to stop right there because I already got something to say. No, I love that she's bringing this stuff up. One of the things I often talk about is the lie that movies, and I'm going to just call it Hollywood, perpetuates with romantic movies. Now, here's what I mean by that. They always show the journey. Oh, you know, what do you call? Oh, you told me the name for this thing.
Oh, the meet cute that you meet.
Meet
like
cute. Thank you. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. We always see this thing where they're showing you, maybe in very detailed, someone meeting, falling in love, getting, maybe even in some movies, to the altar. And everything up to that point is hot, spontaneity. Very rarely, and I've actually personally started doing this in my own life, looking for movies that talk about more than just that aspect of relationships. Because I think that that's where the lie comes in. That part is very often always the case. It's hot, it's exciting, it's fun in the beginning. But then when people start talking about marriage or a long-term relationship, I don't think it's often discussed, and maybe it is, and this is where I'm going to go on my own journey of finding this for myself, what you need to do in order to keep that, like she just started talking about, that desire going. And just in the beginning where she's explained that it's not something that you can do, it's so helpful, because when you're in a relationship and you don't find that happening anymore, and it starts to seem boring, right? It's helpful because I don't think that's being told to us. So your expectations is, oh, it's not, this isn't what it was before, so maybe this isn't the person I'm supposed to be with. And I don't know if you've had that. I mean, obviously, Janelle, as someone who's been in a relationship, I'm pretty sure you probably have had that same thing come up.
Yeah, well, as someone who's been married before, I've been in several long relationships before. It is typically spicy in the beginning, just like the Hollywood movies say. I actually have found several movies there. I mean, the ones with the sparks definitely outweigh the ones with that delve into like stuff, the real relationship. But I agree that like there's a hype around like the sparks. You definitely need some spark, right? Like I get that, like attraction is necessary.
Yeah.
But good sex is not always like the spark. It's not. As someone who's been married, who's been in relationships for like long-term relationships, that sometimes good sex isn't necessarily the like that happens in the beginning.
What is long-term for you? Just so that we're not, someone's like, well, but what's long for you?
I think of a baby. Anything 10 months or more
is a long-term relationship. For
me, yeah. Anything longer than 10 months.
Well, what is the longest relationship you have been in then?
Oh, I was married.
I'll answer it that way.
I was married for 7 years.
7. Okay, cool. My longest relationship was 8 years.
Okay.
And prior to that, and I guess maybe for you, I found that this became something for me. I judged a lot of staying in relationships based on literally what she is describing just in the beginning of this. The spark wasn't there.
From the woman's point of view, a lot of women think that men also view it that way. And so there's a lot of pressure on us to keep things spicy because we do think that if it's not spicy, the man will leave.
Oh man, we're going to definitely get into this. All right, let's jump back into it.
Also, responsive desire, where instead of it just appearing like a lightning bolt, it emerges in response to pleasure. Just that information alone can resolve people's sexual desire problems because they realize they don't have a desire problem, they just have responsive desire. So it's not about figuring out where the pleasure is, it's finding a pathway to the pleasure. I'm Emily Nagosaki, I'm a sex educator, and I'm the author of Come As You Are, the surprising new science that will transform your sex life. And like it actually does.
I'm going to now get that book.
I'm going to move us over so that you guys can see.
Boom mics are really funny when you're talking about sex. Just the boom mic was moving and I'm talking about sex and I'm in that mindset and it's funny to me. So the history of the science of sex therapy really has 3 major phases. The first is grounded in the work of Masters and Johnson, whose fundamental 4-phase model of sexual response was what sex therapy was based on. But when you listen to those phases, you've got arousal, plateau, orgasm, refractory.
You said pause?
No, I did not. Keep going.
Oh.
Refractory period. You know what's missing in that? Desire. So when Helen Singer Kaplan came along in the 1970s, she noticed that desire was nowhere in the model they were using to treat sexuality. So she created the desire, arousal, orgasm model, the triphasic model. And it was revolutionary to add desire. So now we can develop interventions targeting specifically when and how much people want sex. And then Eric Janssen and John Bancroft at the Kinsey Institute had the wacky idea that sex works in the brain just like all the other things in our brain, which is that it is a pairing. And it's called the dual control model because it's got two primary parts. There's the sexual excitation system or accelerator, and there's the sexual inhibitory system or brakes. Sex is far more a brain process than a genital process. Genitals can be fun. The brain is essential. You can't have sex without a brain. So the sexual excitation system is, colloquially, it's the accelerator or the gas pedal. And it notices all of the sex-related information in the environment. That's everything that you see, everything that you hear, smell, touch, taste, and crucially, all the sensations in your body and everything that you think, believe, or imagine. What are some common things that make people's accelerators?
Okay. So here's where, for me, that's fascinating, because what I have learned in my personal experience, and I wonder if she's going to get into this, is how much more of a role that area plays in the mind of a woman compared to a guy. Because I've had a woman describe that they could come into a space and the smell of the space, and I'm not going to say, it smells like, feces or anything crazy like that, but I'm just saying if the odor isn't pleasant, that could be off-putting for them to even consider the idea of sex. Whereas and I'm obviously speaking only as a man from my own personal experience, I don't think or maybe even notice that as much, because my mind now it's so fixated on that idea of sex that I'm willing to bypass a ton of situations or those sensory areas and be so engaged or in the idea of doing it that stuff doesn't factor. Whereas a woman, I've been explained, that can make or break literally everything that
100%. I'm going to quote Alison Armstrong on this because, so for those of you who don't know, Alison Armstrong has studied men for over 30 years. And because of that, she has also now studied women for that same amount of time. And one of the things that she's really great at identifying and describing is how men and women have different levels of estrogen and testosterone. Because women have far higher levels of estrogen going on, what that does to our brains is it makes us more aware. We just have this awareness about everything that's going on. Like we're constantly being fed information. What are the pillows straight on the couch? Because if they're not, we need to fix them. Like, what does it smell like? Because if it smells weird, like we need to handle that. Like, what is the temperature like in the room? Because I'm really hot right now. I'm feeling very uncomfortable. Like, everything. There's a we're just constantly being fed, and it's not because we want to, right? Like this is not if I could shut this off sometimes, I really wish I could.
It's a biological,
because of the amount of estrogen. There are studies where men are given increased doses of estrogen and they literally stop the study. They couldn't even go on. I think they were supposed to do it for 5 or 10 days. And within 24 hours, they were like, I need to stop. I'm feeling crazy. Like I'm just overloaded with they literally were like this. No, I can't do this. And so women yay, we're built to handle this amount of estrogen, but it does make us very aware of our surroundings. Men, because men have significantly more testosterone. This amount of testosterone allows you to focus and to just drill on to exactly what Winston said. Those other things are no longer important because you just need to focus. She breaks it down to hunter versus gatherer. Gatherers need to be aware of their surroundings in order to gather the right things. That berry's poisonous versus this one that's not really. But when you're in hunter mode and you're hunting, you can't focus on all those other things, because if you do for a moment lose focus, you'll miss the deer, right? So you can be in hunter mode or gatherer mode, as both men and women can get into those modes. So she just uses it as an example to explain the phenomenon. But physically, And biologically, women have more estrogen, which allows for them to be more aware of their surroundings, which could sometimes play a role negatively if certain things are not okay to a surrounding, a given smell, a given temperature, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to point out exactly what you were saying, this is very common, like it's and normal. I would just want to normalize that, like for the men and women out there who are like, oh man, like I thought like I was crazy, or I thought she was crazy, because it's like, why are you worried about like the pillows right now?
Yeah.
And it's like, she's like, I'm sorry, I can't help it. And P.S., it doesn't stop when she's having sex. I think men think like, oh, but then you focus on me, right? Like
That,
no,
oh man.
no.
And I'm so happy you went there.
We're still being stimulated,
bombarded with all these. No. But that is so key, because I have found, and between watching another special with this woman speaking and sharing certain insights, and definitely we're gonna recommend, there was a Netflix docuseries that this woman spoke on, this doctor spoke on, and it was all around sex and intimacy and orgasms, pleasure as a whole. But that was one of the things that was so helpful for me, because how I've internalized a lot of what you just expressed is, this person isn't interested in me. This person isn't, or this person professed certain things about how they viewed sex, their desire for it, their like of it, and their actions did not follow through in that area. But I wasn't able to understand that they weren't able to be as present. I'll use the term present. I think you use the word focused, and I would say it's the same thing. Whereas a guy can be present and focused, a woman, beyond her, in some instances, control, isn't able to do this as easily without these other things being structured in a way that makes, and obviously everyone's an individual. So it's like, for you, to your point, you may not, one woman may not notice the pillows and another would. And I've always chalked it up to men. Female intuition or whatever is crazy to me, because they'll be like, oh, who moved that pillow? Is there someone? I'm like, what pillow? And now the guy comes off like, wait, is he lying? But it's like, what pillow are we talking about right now? I thought we were here to do X, Y, and Z. And the woman's there like, nah, it smells like somebody else was here. Like, what's up? And the guy's in a completely, again, two people who want maybe the same thing, but aren't able to achieve that same desired outcome because of the biological functions of our body.
Yeah, just the biological differences. Yeah, I would say she wants to. She really, really, really wants to focus on you, but like biologically, it just becomes impossible. One of the things that is helpful, honestly, is if you touch her. So touching her makes you the loudest sensory thing in her world. So even if you're having a conversation, and it seems like she's doing like a gazillion other things, stop and like put a hand on her shoulder, her arm, or something, because then you become the loudest.
Guys, please, I hope somebody jotted that down. Throw that in the comments. Touch her appropriately. Appropriately. All right, let's jump back in.
The sight of their partner, the smell of their partner, reading a sexy book or watching a sexy scene, and it sends the turn on signal that many of us are familiar with. Functions unconsciously at a low level all the time. Here we are talking about sex, so there's just a little bit of sex-related stimuli, but fortunately at the same time, your brakes, the inhibitory impulses, are noticing all the good reasons not to be turned on right now. And it turns out when people are struggling with any aspect of sexual response, pleasure, desire, arousal, orgasm, it's not usually because there's inadequate stimulation to the accelerator. It's because there is too much stimulation to the brakes. And a lot of them have nothing to do with the sex itself, but have to do with stress, body image, trauma, and relationship issues. So the process of becoming aroused is a dual process of turning on the ons and turning off the offs. The dual control model sort of makes it sound like touch me here, don't touch me that way. It could be as simple as that, but that's not how pleasure works. The perception of a sensation in our bodies, as pleasurable or not, depends on the context in which we experience it. And the context means the external circumstances and our internal state. External circumstances, the bedroom door is locked, we know we're not going to be interrupted. We're wearing the sexy underwear that makes us feel sexy. That's the external circumstances. The internal state is whether you are stressed, depressed, anxious, lonely, experiencing repressed rage. We've all got it. So there can be certain kinds of stimulation that in one context feel amazing and in other contexts make you want to punch somebody in the face. My usual example is tickling. If you are already in a fun, flirty, playful, aroused, trusting, loving frame of mind and you're certain someone tickles you, it's not everyone's favorite, but you can imagine a world where that feels playful and good and can even lead to other things. But if you're in the middle of a fight and they tickle you, it is going to be very irritating. What? It's the same sensation. It's the same certain special someone, but the emotional context, by which I mean the actual activation in your brain, is different. And so your brain interprets the sensation as exactly the opposite. Couples who sustain a strong sexual connection over the long term are not couples who constantly can't wait to put their tongues in each other's mouths. They're the couples who know how to co-create a context that allows both of their brains to have access to pleasure.
I love that. Yeah,
that right there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. This is and you guys already heard us on our soapbox. This is the stuff they should be teaching in school. Like, I'm sorry, but this is the type of stuff that I personally think we should be having classes about. Because I think
and in some countries they do teach it this way.
This is what I mean. Like, the structure of a society is based and found in their family structures. And I think the lack of conversations around it's like, I remember, I barely remember sex ed, but it was so much about the physical apparatus that we each had. And literally, I don't remember any conversation, and maybe the teachers aren't even that were being asked, because I think in most instances, it was like the gym teacher that was asked to teach these things. Like, this person is not even educated to have this conversation with us as kids. But how many of us, and again, please guys, in the comments, if you realize that you were not taught how to be in a healthy, loving, physically sexual relationship, please drop something in the comments. Because I can tell you, if y'all can see my hand with this new virtual background, right here, this is not what I was not taught any of these things. It wasn't even something that my parents discussed openly around me. In fact, all I was told is to not do it. That is literally from my parents. Like, I wasn't given guidance outside of don't bring home no pregnant person. Essentially, I think is like kind of like and maybe that's the West Indian version of.
No, I think a lot of people, it's like, don't bring a girl home pregnant. And
yeah,
that
was it. That was the education.
Don't get pregnant.
That's sex ed from a parental comment. And as now someone with a 5-year-old who watches things that I am shocked as to. I mean, he said something, I won't even repeat it here, but he said something to me the other day, and he said it multiple times about watching certain things and how it makes him feel. And I was dumbfounded, like at 5 years old, that he was understanding what watching a physical act I'm talking about, like even in his kids shows, and the physical reaction his body had. And I was like, I wonder if I was having that at 5 and certainly didn't have a father I could say that to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
all right, press play.
Go.
The most common reaction people have when they learn about the dual control model, especially in conjunction with responsive desire, is, why did no one tell me this before? It's a kind of freedom to know that you're already normal, you are not broken, nothing is wrong. You just need to work to create a context that allows your particular brain to be ready to respond. The mindset to bring to the process of coming to understand who you are as a sexual person and how you came to be this person is to turn toward your own internal experience with kindness and compassion. If you want to understand yourself, There are worksheets that you can do. There are lots of other books that you can read, talk to a therapist. Unfortunately, if you want to explore these ideas with a partner, you are going to have to talk to your partner about sex.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of people who feel like having sex with their partner is a whole lot easier than talking about sex with that same partner.
Say that.
So really what it comes down to is tips for how to talk to your partner about sex. And one of the positive frames that you can use is that you and I belong together in a sexual way, and I am interested in exploring the ways that we can deepen our erotic connection. I want to know what works for you. I want to be able to tell you what works for me in a way that's going to feel good to you and not critical. It's not about spark. What I want is members for anyone in a long-term relationship so that it is banked and ready to stoke, and partners have shared vocabulary for understanding how to simplify bringing life for the times when you are ready. If I could people remember only one thing, it would be pleasure is the measure. It is not how often you have sex or who you have it with or where you do it or in what positions or even how many orgasms you have. It's just whether or not you like the sex you are having. And if everybody involved is glad to be there, free to leave with no unwanted consequences, and likes the sex they are having, you're already doing it right. And all of the other pieces, all the other things that you could be worried about, like does an orgasm, those things will fall into place when you put pleasure at the center of definition of sexual well-being.
This is great.
This was
the ember part that she says at the end, I resonate with. In my longer relationships, I remember like that's what it was about. It was about like keeping like an environment that like at any moment like something could spark something. But I don't know how consciously we did it. I know that was a part of what made like the sexual part of our relationship continue. Mm-hmm. Or thrive or not thrive, to be honest, right? Like, because it could be the reverse, that the environment wasn't created and so the embers weren't made. So I really like that analogy that she gave.
That's awesome. And where she left it with, I think maybe what our understanding or desired goal of a sexual encounter is. And I can only speak for myself. As a man, I don't feel that that's how I've been taught to judge myself. Just different relationships, different experiences. I've had one person where I felt like her desire was on the length of the encounter, like it had to be for a period of time, and if it wasn't, it wasn't like, was it good while we were doing it for however long? Or wasn't it? It was just whether it was good or not was going to be based on how long it was. And then I've had other people, and there's, again, this woman talks about this in other videos about just even what it is for a woman to have an orgasm and what that even really looks like. And that's how a woman judges it. But how many women are even unaware of what an orgasm is. So whether it's long or short, none of that even matters, because this woman's experience in the sexual act isn't even being judged or assessed the right way, because she isn't aware of what she should even be feeling. And I'm talking about, these are grown women, 30s, 40s, 50s, who in many instances have not had orgasms and therefore have never had what this doctor would define as good sex. And I was blown away by this. Blown away. Because for many of these women, there's so much more of a mental aspect of this. And I think, Janelle, you alluded to that plays such a bigger role. Mm-hmm. And the physical part could be a hit or miss. But if the other stuff is there, but oh man, this was really, really, really good. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, we're going to link it to the end of this. I think we went way over, whatever. But I like this. I love being able to even talk about things like this. So I'm super excited. I hope you guys love the rundown. Janelle, any closing words?
No, we're just gonna keep it coming. I love this. This is great, guys. Please put in the comments what you love best. We're gonna put the original video in the
link,
the description below. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next rundown.
Absolutely. And guys, if there's any content that you guys would love for us to review, please submit that to us. You can either post the link here, or I'm pretty sure our email is up on our YouTube page, which you guys are probably on if you're watching this, or whatever platform you are seeing this. There's some way to get in contact with us. So please just hit us up there, tag us in something that you guys would love us to check out. And we will definitely bring that to you guys. And then for our Patreon community, you guys know you guys always gets first dibs on everything. So if there's anything that you guys would love for us to review, please just email us or submit that at us at our Patreon. And we will definitely get that to you guys. But in the interim, as always, remember, you deserve the good.